too much. How things going on?
Oh man, it's everything is good, man. Had a good day. You know, it's the week after being on call, so it's kind of like back in the swing of things. So right now in an HVAC, if you can get off on time and ain't nobody asking for no help, you can get, you can go straight home, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I understand.
So, but no, speaking of being on call, this weekend, because I was on call, I didn't get to watch the fights and we didn't get to chit chat and score and the build up. I felt bad, but at the same time, what I'm saying, I had to, do some things, get that bread, and just before I get into the Inoue, the big topic, just wanted to recap the pre-fights, and then the TO stuff, and then we'll get right into the Inoue. But what stuck out days later? You know what I'm saying? You was sitting there watching it. What stuck out to you about some of the things you saw Saturday night?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, T.O. seemed to be the stronger fighter in that bout. A little more conditioned, and as a result of that, as he started to land punches, his punches had more of a devastating effect. And as he pressed towards the latter part of the fight, you could see that Taylor was getting hurt from the accumulation of punches that he was landing. And for some reason, he just had the appearance that he was fatiguing, he was getting hit, that he could have had a conditioning problem, or maybe he just ran into a fighter that was much stronger, and as he got hit, it had more of a devastating effect. So T.O. really looked strong in that fight. Mm-hmm. So Taylor just could not get motivated enough in that fight to consistently win rounds. Some of the scoring in that fight I thought was atrocious. It was no way that fight was a 15-13. No way. Right. Taylor may have won 4 rounds, okay, at best. 4 rounds at best. So the scoring in that fight from 2 of those judges, it was just off keel. It made no sense to me, to the observer, just watching the fight. T.O. won that fight hands down. Even though they gave him a unanimous decision, 2 of those judges had that fight too close. They only had 1 round separating them, that fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, just because I wasn't with you, I still was able to see all of it. I was able to see it from the walkout. I seen the walkouts. I seen both of them walk out and everything. So I saw it all. You know what I'm saying? I saw it. And, I lost some things like listening to people online and, watching some videos this week when they were saying 5 rounds or it was, close. And I was like, man, like that's, when you start talking like that, that's when you got an agenda, man. Now, we're not even talking about what we actually saw. And that fight was not that close. I think the first 3 rounds, I'm like, well, it depends on, most of the time, that first quarter of the fight, that's especially in the fill-out rounds and when they don't come out in game busters mode, like those fill-out rounds, it kind of depends on how you want to judge those rounds. That's why I kind of agree with you that 4 rounds at best. But you could have said Josh won either 2 out of the 3. I would say the first 3 rounds, and after that it was kind of like and we seen later on T.O. took a little break, but we saw T.O. have an effect with the punches. It was like Josh Taylor felt something and he was like, I'm not gonna be so committed. He didn't use some of his weapons And again, it's much like maybe I would say it could have been like an off night or something like that, but we seen Catterall do some things before, so we can't say after the injury. And then the man himself in Josh Taylor said no excuses. He was the better man tonight. He took it, and that's why I say, man, he, in my book, he an honorable guy. You know what I'm saying, for taking the L the way he did. You know, T.O. apologized for the statements and all that stuff. The stuff that we chose not to talk about before, they patched that all up. And it was good, overall good sportsmanship. But I want to ask you this, because people were questioning, did T.O.'s power translate? How you feel about his power at 40, granted seeing it against Josh Taylor?
Well, I'm going to say that his power, it was effective, because I think it was T.O.'s power that dictated the pace of that fight. Once Taylor was getting hit by shots, he was making the adjustment not to continuously get hit. So therefore, yes, I think T.O.'s power was there. He didn't get a knockout, but you could see the course of the fight, the way Taylor was holding back. It was because he anticipated getting hit and getting hurt. And towards the latter part of the fight, he was getting hit and he was getting hurt. There were times in that fight where it looked like T.O. was on the verge of stopping him. So did T.O.'s power prevail? Yes, it did. In that fight, T.O. did something that was smart. He took off a couple rounds and he didn't fight as hard. That's because Taylor was not fighting hard. It would have been a thing if T.O., coasted, and while coasting, he was getting punished. But that wasn't the case, because Taylor was coasting himself, trying to survive the rounds. So therefore, to conserve some energy towards the latter part of the rounds, T.O. did the smart thing. He didn't gas himself, because he knew he wanted to finish strong. And between the two fighters, he was going to have the better finish than Taylor, because Taylor, he merely survived about the last 3 rounds, because he was on the verge of getting hit and maybe getting stopped.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think part of it for T.O. was, I think he showed a little more poise, because it was when you look at when he was actually getting caught, it was either on counters by Kambosos. That's when he got dropped. He got dropped off of a counter, and with when he was in there with Sandor Martin, it was when he was rushing in, like not coming in tactically. Not saying that he used his jab to the best of his abilities, you know what I'm saying? I think that but I do think that he showed a lot of poise, and I think he wanted to be able to carry that power to the later rounds and be able to pounce, because it was almost like a waiting game. You know how, the birds get to circling, you know what I'm saying? They know, hey, this one ain't really moving like that. It's any time now, so he was trying to preserve some of that for later on. But I think Taylor was still dangerous enough to where, he couldn't get reckless. So I think all in all, I think that it was a good fight. I seen where T.O. he could improve some more. But I was happy for him. You know what I'm saying? I was happy for how they carried, I was happy that he was actually able to redeem himself, because I don't think that, T.O. got nearly as much respect as he needed to get, over these, over time, and especially since the Kambosos loss. It's like everybody put so much weight on that, but then they say, hey, undefeated, he's undefeated, and it's like, well, man, when you fighting the creme de la creme, and you suffer a loss like Regis, you can climb back up to the top, you can work your way back up, you still a good fighter. So I think he just now starting to get his praise. Some people just never going to give it. But talking about this fight, it had a lot of implications on this Inoue and Fulton talk. So I'm gonna jump into that because I know that's the meat and potatoes. You know what I'm saying? This is the meat and potatoes of this talk. Now, when I was looking at that fight, when we was analyzing it, I went back and played it, and it's actually the intro to this clip, this other video I'm going to do. But we called it in such a way to where, if you listen to it now, it aged very well how we called the prediction of that fight. Now, that was really the boxer versus the puncher. Sometimes you can say T.O. is a boxer puncher, but this is a la Fulton and Inoue. But the question was, or what I was going to bring up is Inoue's natural secret weapon over or versus Stephen Fulton's acquired skill. And what I'm talking about is, I heard somebody talk about this. I normally call it suddenness. When I put it in my videos and I look at some of the killers in my boxes to watch collection, I call it suddenness. But I was reminded that it's called the fast twitch. Boxers with those fast twitch muscles, especially early on when they're young and they're in their prime, sometimes that's the difference in fights. And I believe that that's a natural thing for Inoue. He has that fast twitch, like where he can catch you, like it's like Boots, it's like Bud, it's like Tank, it's a couple of them where they got those fast twitch. Roy used to have it, Floyd had it, especially early on. You know what I'm saying? Those reflexes, but that explosiveness, that like when you got those people that could jump very well, dunkers, a lot of dunkers have those where they can explode real quick. I think that's Inoue's natural secret weapon. And we're talking about Fulton's acquired skill, his ability to box, his ability to stick and move, his ability to go to the body if you need to, use his feet, lateral movement, dictate pace, tone, be defensively responsible, things like that. His acquired skill. And we heard, I sent you something from Rais Aleem, that interview, he's campaigning for the winner of one of these guys. I don't know if he'll be right there as far as getting the winner, but I just threw a lot at you. What do you think about that?
I think the way you analyze the two fighters was on point. You know, the way you describe Fulton and the way you describe Inoue. You know, Inoue's reflexes are such that he is a good counterpuncher. Now, counterpunchers have to rely on quick reflexes, because what they're doing is they're waiting for the fighter to make the mistake and then counter.
Right.
Inoue has that ability as a counterpuncher, not just to slip and touch you, but to slip and hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I watched that with the second fight when he fought Donia. Inoue would feint.
Mm-hmm.
And as Donia would move in to throw a punch, then he would counter. The very first knockdown that he scored in that second fight with Donia was a counter punch where he feinted his left, Donia stepped in, and then he countered with a straight right hand. And the straight right hand, even though it was a quick, fast punch, it was a crushing punch, because he hit him and he knocked him down. And that shows that Inoue is not just a moving left-right hard puncher. He can actually counter and hit you with a punch that can hurt you. So he shows abilities of countering, and he shows abilities of stalking. So he has a lot of tools in his toolbox, and all of his tools can be devastating if he catch you flush. Now your assessment of Fulton, you were on point. The only thing that Fulton tends to lack in his career and what his record shows is that he's not a heavy-handed puncher. And that's going to be the difference in that fight. Will he be able to survive and finesse Inoue without getting hurt? If he can, he's going to have to do it for the entire fight.
Yeah, if he make him miss, he got to be able to make him pay, I would say. Because if you don't have power, that's the best way. Like, if you're not, we're not known, because every boxer have power, but if you're not known or the label on you is not, as a power puncher, which we had punches like that, like Corey Spinks. You know what I'm saying? He beat Zab Judah, but he was more of a known as a boxer more, like, you know what I'm saying? So you have those guys that are not knockout artists, but their ability is when they make people miss, they will make you pay. Now they can, you know what I'm saying, they can either embarrass you. Even Floyd, when he stopped becoming a knockout artist, he would make you miss and then he would make you pay. And it would look embarrassing because it's like, dang, I ain't even know he could get there that fast or do, things like that. So that's what I see with Fulton. Can he do that with Inoue? Can he make Inoue miss and then make him and be able to make him pay if he missed?
Well, that's gonna be the magic question, because Inoue is not a slow fighter. He has good speed, and a lot of times his opponents don't see the punch that they getting hit with. It's not that he telegraphs his punch to get his power. He throws his punches the way you are taught to throw punches. And he don't throw these punches from very long range. He moves in, steps in, and he uses leverage when he throws his punch, and he hits you, and they crisp. So he doesn't telegraph his punch. So, Fulton gonna have his work cut out, because Inoue is not like Tank, where Tank moves in, look like he's gonna throw a punch to the body because he's low, but then comes with that hook or that right from a crouch position. Inoue really don't fight from that crouch position. He pretty much fight from an upright position. He throw a punch. He may tuck a little bit when he's going to the body, but it's not a telegraph type blow.
Right.
So, this is going to be a good fight. Fulton going to have to use all of his skills, and he's going to have to be effective. Because if he get into a point where he's only using defense and he's in a defense posture, that's what happened to Paul Butler. In that fight, Butler was just trying to survive on defense. And he really wasn't mounting an offense. And if you don't mount a good enough offense against Inoue, it's almost like you allowing Inoue to punch the heavy bag.
Right.
Because that's what it looked like in that fight with Butler. At a certain point, he was just being pummeled.
Yeah, Inoue he has some nifty feet too. He don't cut the ring off. I don't know if he come in using his feet like that and not jab his way in, that might be an opportunity for Fulton. But I think that there are a lot of features on Inoue, like athleticism, I think that people are missing. You just talk to his posture, and him not telegraphing his punches, but I think that his feet are exceptional. He knows where to get in body control, balance. He has good balance. You're not gonna catch him really off balance like that. So he's a well-rounded fighter. And I think that the price tag of just having power, even though I think that that's his secret advantage in this one, that quick twitch. I think that the label of just having power is a dangerous label to read and consume that product, because he's a good boxer. His IQ is up there. A lot of other boxers, like when you hear the boxers talking about him, they say things like that, like, oh man, like a lot of boxers like him. So they, you know, I tend to listen to the former boxers or the boxers, not really on their politics, but what they say about what happened in the ring. And most of the time, the ones that's not, you know, on no agenda and they just really looking at the sweet science, they have pegged Inoue as being the truth. Now, with that interview with that guy Rais Salim, his exact word, well, I'm not gonna say his exact words, but I'm gonna paraphrase and put it out there what he said. He said he was asked, who do you think will win that fight, Naoya Inoue or Stephen Fulton? And his immediate response was something like, well, if Fulton was to actually win that fight, then I would have to give him a lot more credit than I've been giving him. And that's a guy that's in the division that's looking to fight the winner.
Yes, he made a good analogy, and he's telling it from his own boxing perspective. You know, he's giving Inoue his credit, where in many cases American fighters, not just American fighters, but the American fight fan, okay, they are so passionate to the American fighter that they fail to give all credit due to non-American fighters. If Inoue was from Philadelphia and he was an American fighter, he would have high praise. He would have the type of praise that Spence have, like Bud has, that Tank have. You know, he don't have that type of praise from the American fight fans. However, when you look at the governing bodies of boxing, those that have to judge all the fighters, they put Inoue high on the pound for pound list. And he's high on the pound for pound list because they recognize his ability to be able to fight. They see it. Some sanctioning bodies rank him as high as maybe number one. But the American fight fan, they don't put him that high because he's not an American fighter. It's bias. So hopefully Inoue will be able to display his talent, and if he's victorious in this fight, maybe the American fight fan will have a different perspective on him. But he's gonna have to beat up some American fighters before he get that recognition.
Well, I think this right here, you know, that's why I wanted to actually, it wasn't solely like to just praise Inoue, but it was also to give Fulton his salutes. You know, we don't give grown men flowers over here. We salute him, but it was also to give Fulton his salute, because I was thinking he should get pushed, because it's funny some of the things you said, and we might have said this like about 5 or 6 episodes ago, but like Brandon Lee, like the push that Brandon Lee, if Brandon Lee had the skill set that Naoya Inoue had, man, you would think he was Bruce Lee's son right now. I'm telling you, and that's the way I see it, because the push, it wasn't until Brandon Lee suffered a little bit of adversity by that guy, I think his name was Garcia, a guy that was moving up, and he actually dropped him. It wasn't until then that some of his momentum went away, but they still push him. And I say all the time, I say, man, that's pretty interesting. If Naoya Inoue skill set was in Brandon Lee, they would think he was Bruce Lee's son. You know, but this is what I was going to say. Part of it is, when I think about it, we're going to have to get up, because I remember when I was watching that Paul Butler, it was before work. I was able to see it before work, and I get up real early, but I was able to see it before going to work, like, I think it was like 4 in the morning, like 4 or 5, something. It was real early, 5. I forgot what time it was, but it was real early, so I was able to see it. But in part, this fight may or may not, I'm not sure how I was going to do, but part of it is having to get up early and people forgetting, or that time because of the time difference. So I'm thinking that although he enjoys the advantages of being home, I think he may have to sacrifice that home comfort and have a big fight on a big stage on a Saturday night in the States, in a Vegas, or in a New York, and demand that, audio, or command that audience. So I'm thinking that it's something that him and his team might want to consider, even though, if you can get it like that at home and you still fighting the top dogs and you giving people their best paydays, it's like present them with a better offer. Make him an offer he can't refuse so that he can get the eyeballs that he needs over here in the States.
The only problem is that, you have to get him matched against a credible American fighter that everybody is following. Now, Fulton, even though he's a champion, he has not established himself as a household fight name. He don't have the name of a Tank, of a Shakur Stevenson. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's a champion, but the American fight fan hasn't had an opportunity really to critique his career and to know that he is a real good fighter. So even fighting here in America, Fulton doesn't sell out crowds. He's not a pay-per-view person. He's not really known like that. And for Inoue to come to America and fight, he has to fight a credible, well-established talent that America recognizes. Yeah. Now, let's say, for example, if he defeats Fulton, okay, if he was to fight for the unification, this guy that just fought and won the other two belts, he wouldn't be the type of draw,
right, fighting
in America, because he's not well known himself.
Yeah,
he got the title. He fought courageously, but for the average fight fan, he got it on a humble. And that wouldn't be the type of fight that Inoue would need to come to America to fight, because I don't know if they could draw the type of crowd or make the type of money that's generated in Japan. So you have to have the right element. For example, if Inoue was to move up and was to fight somebody like Shakur Stevenson, okay, or Tank, that would be the type of fight that he could fight in America, and that would generate a whole lot. But that might be a year or two off from now. If he chooses to move up, he would have to move up 2 more classes from where he's currently at.
Yeah, that would be, man, I wouldn't even, I don't know, I gotta see this, but hey, if he decide he want to do that, that would be trying to be super great. Like, that would trying to be like one of the greatest to ever lace him up. You do some stuff like that, man. Like, he would, if he even put that kind of energy out there, that he would be willing to do something like that. Because Tank said he would be willing to do something like that. Like, he was joking, but I'm like, man, you cut down and they meet, like, because they saying he could meet at, they saying he could go at 130. I'm like, man, if any chance Naoya Inoue could get to 130, oh man, if he could do that, man, if he could campaign at 130 for that fight and Tank come down to 130, man, that would be fireworks. That, hey, he would definitely, everybody would know, he would definitely be a household name. But on the piggyback side of this, let me just ask you a general question. I don't want to go off left field. Do you think Boots is an established name? Do you think people know him, or is that something amongst the boxing community? Because you got, is that how you feel about that? Like, where's Boots? Where's that name? Because he's from Philly. I'm just asking because he's from Philly. Where do you think that name resonates in the boxing? Is that just that boxing community, or has he kind of established a big name too?
Well, Boots has not established a real big name yet. Now, everybody who's in the boxing world knows he's a contender. He's somebody to deal with. The only problem is that Boots has not had a title fight yet where he can display his talents in a championship fight. Once Boots get a belt, a major belt, then the world is going to watch him and scrutinize him a little bit more right now. But as far as the welterweight division goes, you got individuals like Ugas, Spence, Crawford. These people are the ones that's kind of on the top. Now, what would be a good fight? Is a fight with Ugas. If he's able to dismantle Ugas, then that would perpetuate him right at the top to fight maybe Crawford or Spence. See, he's a fight away from being recognized and being known as a terror. But as far as the contenders in the division, he is probably the top contender for a belt.
Yeah, he is. But I was just wondering because of the name. I was just wondering if I was all for, how I saw him. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing you saying about Inoue. He need the right dance partner. I think that, and I don't want to get derailed on the Boot stuff. He's getting ready to fight the guy Romain Villa, who got that decision over Speedy. He's getting ready to fight him. But I thought that a good dance partner for him would have been Keith Thurman, because he could sell the fight. Everybody know him. He go in there and dispatch Keith Thurman, or Keith Thurman, roll back the hands of time and exploit Boots if he could, which I don't think he could. But it's dance partner. So after really, Boots need a good dance partner. And I think in order for the fans to really recognize Inoue and really, have responsible dialogue about the man, I think he need the right dance partner, is what you were saying.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned Thurman. That would be a good fight. I know at one point Thurman said he wasn't fighting Boots. You know what I mean? Because, that was too risky of a fight. He said he wasn't fighting him, but he said it in a different way. Something like, I'm not going to be, out there fighting him.
A gatekeeper. He said, I ain't going to be no gatekeeper, basically.
Yeah, he said something like that. But the only problem that I see with a possible Thurman Boots fight is that Thurman is suggesting that he wants to campaign at 154. He has made reference that 147 is not where he wants to be at. And unless Boots wanted to move up, I don't see him fighting Thurman, because I don't see Thurman coming down. But Boots needs to stay at 147. He needs to make his mark on that weight class. And once he makes that mark on that weight class and he solidifies some domination as a welterweight, then maybe he might consider moving up. But I don't see Thurman fighting again at 147. I just don't see him doing it.
Well, I see Keith Thurman, man. He's a special guy. You know what I'm saying? He had his time. I just think that he's in a point in his life where it's too money driven right now. I think the only reason why he really want to go to 54 is because I'm not sure if he's in the gym, standing around, fight shape, fight weight. I mean, because he hasn't been active. I mean, if you're not in the ring, what's there keeping you? You're not going to train year round. That's why we were talking about Spence and Bud, and the chess move that Bud had, getting a fight and allowing Spence to sit around. Now Spence is different because he was training that whole time. He wasn't recovering from anything. But Keith Thurman, We don't know if he was training or we don't know. Like, so I mean, you want to go to 154, but you know, a part of it's like you got to pick a side. Like you can't be like, I'm not fighting this guy, I'm not doing this guy, but then you know you want this and that, and then you want a big bag and boots. You know, I don't know if fighting the boots guarantees a big bag right now, like for what you're asking. If Boots and them people, you know, really believed in him, they would put up a big enough bag. You know, I mean, Boots could fight Blair Cobbs, shut him up. Keith Thurman could fight Blair Cobbs, shut him up. Any mixture of that, because they gonna sell the fight, and that's the kind of, that's almost like the, even though I put him above Rolly, he's better than Rolly. Blair Cobbs can actually knock you out. If he catch you, he could actually hurt you, but I don't think he's that great of a boxer. But guys like that, like a dancing partner, somebody that's going to talk the fight up, bring attention, but that actually, you know, people might be like, man, if he do catch you or if he embarrass you, you know, that's a real, it's not novelty boxing, that's a real boxer. But matches like that, somebody that's going to sell the fight, somebody that's in the division established, not, you know, not no fluky stuff. But I think Boots got a good path in Vila. We don't know what Keith Thurman is. I just kind of use him as an example, you know, but I don't know what Keith Thurman is right now. I don't know if he's a boxer, if he wants to go ahead and, because he can call fights. His IQ and how he calls fights, he's very knowledgeable about the fight game. He can come to the other side and get a bag or get out the way, you know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Thurman really wants to do. You know, what direction he want to take. But whatever he does, he's in the latter stage of his career. If he fights, I don't see him fight no more than maybe 2 fights. You know, if he campaigns and he gets a match.
Yeah, I think
if he wins, he may move on to the next fight. But if Thurman fights and he loses, I think it's over for his career.
Yeah, he got to get back in the ring first, because we know we ain't gonna see him with a name. But this is the thing, it wouldn't be a bad thing if he decided to just move on. Keith Thurman can still, you know, earn money from the sport of boxing and have a great career, and people still respect him. But the only reason why I say this is he's in the realm of the Kell Brooks, the Amir Khans. Bud, he just happened to have a strap. But that, if you look at that whole little age group, Sean Porter, that age group, it's that time where they, some of Mikey Garcia, they went and said, all right, you know what, I'm gonna do this and that. I'm gonna take, you know, my money, I've invested well. They went and did that, but they're not playing around. I think Sean tried to do that on that last fight with Bud, and it kind of put a book into his career that what does not epitomize what kind of fighter Sean Porter was. I don't want Keith Thurman to do that. You can't go in there, you can't play boxing. So either you in it or you not, because you get in there with the wrong dude, and he gonna book in your career and it ain't gonna look good. I just want to see him, you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna be in it, you know, I understand you got whatever you got going on, family, you know, have your celebration, but you took a lot of time off. We haven't seen him. He need to get a name and decide whether or not he gonna be boxing or he gonna move on and still, you know, be a part of boxing, but just not in the ring, because he can get hurt.
Yeah, I think that's where he should be at in his career. And another thing too, if he wants another title shot, his inactivity does not deserve him a title shot right now. In order to get a title shot, he would need to fight a contender that would perpetuate him for a title shot. Now, the only way I see that he could get a title shot right off the top, if after the Crawford-Spence fight, both of these guys decide that they're not fighting at the welterweight division, and they put all 4 belts up. With all 4 belts being on the line, okay, there's a possibility that Thurman could fight one of the 4 top contenders in that division once they those belts get split up, and he could be matched against somebody for one of the 4 title belts.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I could see him maybe getting a shot like that, but just getting a title shot above the contenders that's already established in the division, to me, that's not fair for boxing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I can see, the only way I see that really is, I mean, I think him and Speedy might be a good one, because Speedy coming off that loss where, you know, he coming off that loss to Vila. Speedy, Virgil Ortiz, Amantis Stanionis, Ugas, or Boots. That's it, Keith. Like, we know, because it's a part of the thing where you can't play that game where you say, oh man, that you know, the old era or the new era. Like, it's like you hanging around now to where your era is slowly, it's not saying it's fading, but it's, the clock is ticking on it, and these young people they've been waiting in line. They've been active. You know what I'm saying? Boots been active. He been in the ring. This will be the second time this year. We haven't seen or heard. Virgil Ortiz finally about to get it on. Amantis Stanionis, he been taking that step aside, and he got his shot. Somebody gonna have to see him if the winner of that Virgil Ortiz. We got that right around the corner. We're gonna do a segment on that. But we got that fight coming up, and they gonna be up for one of them belts. So it ain't going. It's you better get active now. Get your little fight out of the way. Get your little comeback. Knock some rust off. Get that out the way, because you have to see one of them guys.
Exactly. And with the inactivity that he had, and with the performance that he had with Pacquiao, it's going to be an uphill battle to beat some of these young, strong guys.
Yeah, they touch you the right way, man. These young dudes, they not playing around, man. Even that dude, Romain Vila. I hope they not sleeping on him. You go in there thinking it's sweet, and he touched that chin the right way. I mean, you can't play, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I seen that interview with Raiz, and I was wondering, okay, I mean, we explored a lot about the Fulton and Inoue, and I said, okay, let's talk about the secret weapons or the acquired skills. Given that we seeing this a lot, the boxer puncher who's really a master boxer versus the pure boxer, and a lot of people be picking the pure boxer, but no, it's heavily favoritismed. I just think that right now I seen ESPN's list, and I think they have Inoue at number 1. No, I think they have Bud at number 1 and Inoue at number 2, I think, on the pound for pound. So, but I also looked at their list where Jermell Charlo ain't even on there. So I was like, man, I can't even like. I'm high on Inoue too, but Jermell ain't even on the list. Shakur on there, Devin on there. I'm like, we know what that list is all about. So, even though they do give their credit to Inoue for where he at, their list it needs some work, to say the least.
Yeah, you have to put Inoue on a list. He's got to be within the top 5, because his accomplishments itself dictate that you gotta recognize this fighter as being one of the best out there. Now, you may not have him as being the best, but when you look at his resume, how can you not have a fighter of that caliber within the top 5 pound for pound?
He gotta be in the top 5. That's not arguable. He gotta be. Tank wasn't even on that list either. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't nowhere on there either. But they got heavyweights on there and stuff like that. So I'm like, it's just weird, man. Heavyweights ain't on my list. Like, heavyweights are heavyweights. That was always separated in my book. So I'm like, you taking up spots where if you wanted somebody on there, cool, but you taking up certain spots. You're not honoring certain people. Like Jermell, we still argue, but Canelo, like, I don't even get into a lot of people's pound for pound. That stuff is just, it's telling,
See, the sanctioning body, okay, it's difficult for them to put Tank high on the pound for pound list.
No, I'm saying he ain't even on there though. I'm saying I don't care where you at, but he ain't even regarded as the top 10. Him or Jamel.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why Tank is not considered. Because the sanctioning body has to recognize fighters that are champion within their sanctions. Because Tank don't hold a major title, it would be difficult for them to put Tank high on the list when he's not even a part of that championship caliber. Now, physically, is he as good as anybody in the pound for pound? Yes, he is. But Tank don't hold a major belt. If Tank had like 2 of the major sanctioning belts, you would see Tank somewhere in the middle of that pound for pound. But because he don't own any of the major belts, that hinders how you position him in the pound for pound. Because they tend to want to put fighters in the pound for pound that own at least one of the 4 major belts out there.
The only thing with ESPN's list is that they have Shakur Stevenson on there. He's not, and he just moved up. So they have Shakur on there. Like they have, like their list is just, it's, you know, you can poke holes all in. I see what people say as far as the belts, but Rolly got a belt. I mean, so you know, he got a major belt. So it's tricky waters when you get into that. You know, that get political. The sanctioning bodies. That's just like if Lomachenko would have beat Haney, he would have been on there. But because the decision came out, Haney is on there. But with his last performance and his resume of former champions, Teofimo actually beat 3 champions. It's 3-1. And Devin Haney only beat 1 champion who had a belt when he fought him. I mean, so, but he's on there. So you can argue, you know, because Teo beat Comey, he beat Loma, and he beat Josh when they all had belts. Devin Haney beat George Kambosos twice when he had a belt. But Devin Haney's on that pound for pound list. Teo's not. Usyk is on there. Tyson Fury's on there. I'm like, okay, all right. So I don't, I take that with a grain of salt. I know that sometimes they get it right, and they get it right when it comes to Naoya being on there. Now, where you put him, that's why I don't even like to rank the top 10. I'm like, I just like to say, I only really had like 9, but I like to say, hey, at any given day, these 9 people, you know what I'm saying, could be anybody to get in the ring with them. That's what I like to say. I don't care where you put them at, from top to bottom, or front to back. You know what I'm saying? Them 9, I like to just throw out a group of 10 and say, I think that they could beat anybody if they was actually to get in the ring and everything was, even per se, as far as, the class that they in, they can, you know what I'm saying, they'll get the job done. That's how I'll be looking at it, So we got something going on this weekend. I gotta look at the docket. I've been swamped with work, but I know we had needed to talk about, get another Inoue Fulton segment and just catch up on this boxing. But I got some more stuff too. I just been catching up because of last week. I was on call.
Yeah, I understand how that is. When you on call, as soon as you home, you're comfortable, and then there's the phone. You gotta get ready to go out. So I know that can be kind of unnerving sometimes. You can't really plan a whole lot and feel confident that you can do everything that you have on your plate.
Yep. But that was last week. This week, I'm all good, so I got some catching up. I might, depending on if, nobody need help, I might call you tomorrow and, hit you with this other thing that I've been, working on. I'm trying to wait till some other news come out, but man, a lot of the things we talked about and how we be talking that boxing, a lot of those things are coming to fruition. It's crazy, you know what I'm saying? That's why we got to keep having it and keep putting it out there.
Yes, indeed, and I enjoyed being a part of your podcast. Yep. I really do.
You're a very good and pivotal role to it, man. I think people like hearing your take. You know, I get talked down off the ledges. I get balanced. You know what I'm saying? A lot of time when you want to run, especially when you all aggressive and stuff, you want to just run in the direction and rah. You know, you got to sit back and think. So, you know, you add that definitely to the dialogue, man. I think we do a pretty good job at giving everybody their salutes and recognizing, you know, talent, and we do it, you know, we do it responsible and tasteful. That's why I like how we talk about it, you know. Some fresh water to the boxing community. You know, when I'm out there by myself and I do my little video, that's when I get to cut up. But I'll let you enjoy it.
I try to have an even keel approach when I'm talking about the fighters, you know. I try to give everybody their just due. But just like with any sport, you're going to look at some fighters or some participants in the sport, and you're going to think that they have a little more talent than the next man. Everybody's not the same. Everybody might be good, but there are some people in sport that you can see their athleticism, and you can say, wow, this guy, he's really good at what he's doing. And even if you just are a neutral observer, you can't but recognize talent when you see it. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you do good, man. That's why I keep having. I be trying to, you know, I be waiting for the right kind of news so we can get off and talk about some other people. But you know, we touch bases on it, and I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow, and shoot some stuff at you. I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow, and we'll talk some more boxing then.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, well, enjoy your evening and have a good time, relax, you know.
Yes, sir. And I look forward to your call.
All right.
All right, Mike. You take care.
You too. Peace. That was my old head, K. We talked about a lot. You know, we talked about Fulton and Inoue. We talked about Boots. We talked about Keith Thurman, T.O. and Taylor. People moving up, Devin Haney in these belts. You know, the concept of belts and pound for pound. You know, we try to be responsible when we talk that boxing. You know, anyways, I want to thank everybody for the new growth, all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. You know, if you listen to me, it's because you really love boxing. You know, if you listen to us, it's because you just really love boxing. Or you just want a different perspective on boxing. Not everything that we say is right or is law or whatever. That's just our opinion, and we just love boxing. We try to be responsible, and we try to judge these boxers from what they do inside the ring, and then we'll work our way on the outside of the ring if it applies to what goes on in the ring. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the likes, all the subscriptions, all my new subscribers. Salute to the kidneys. Everybody work boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.